Hi, it's Matt Kendall here from IEMT Practitioner Training, or IEMT Academy, as it used to be known. I'm here with Thomas Safrin. It's the 1st of March 2023. Thomas did his training on the 28th and 29th of January, wasn't it? It was the January training. Yeah. And he has completed his case studies, and today he's going to become an IEMT practitioner. Tom's got an interesting background, and he's based over in the good old US of A. And what's been really good with taking all the trainings online is that we can have people from literally all over the world attend. I know it was a funny time zone and stuff for him, but he's been attending throughout the night. So, Thomas, again, I'll just tell you, there's those surprises. There's 4 questions which I ask people: your background, especially in therapy, how you heard about IEMT, why did you want to do it, what you thought about going through the training, how's it been applying it, and what you're going to use it for. So let's start off. What's your background? What were your sorts of careers and what you're doing, and how did you end up becoming a therapist?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So my background is actually in law enforcement. I spent 27 years as a police officer, police investigator, undercover narcotics agent, and then a police trainer. And in my police career, I learned about neurolinguistic programming for the purposes of interviews and interrogations, which then later I learned that NLP was sort of born out of hypnosis with Milton Erickson and so forth. And I became fascinated with learning about hypnosis. At first, just sort of, it was nice to know, interesting sort of thing. And that led me then to continue, learning about it and ultimately going to a certification program, which then I thought, well, okay, this would be a great thing to do as my second career, maybe, later on in retirement or something. So I started, in hypnosis part-time, and it grew into a full-time, a full-time practice here in Savannah, Georgia, in the U.S., like you said. And so I've been doing hypnosis for full-time for about 6.5 years now. And I just continue to grow my skill set in things hypnosis and hypnosis related, and particularly helping with people with anxiety, PTSD, and that sort of thing.
Brilliant. So 27 years in law enforcement. I bet you've seen some stuff and experienced some things. We actually have quite a few people who have been through our blue light services, so fire, ambulance, police, and military who do this. Because obviously they experience an awful lot of trauma in the job, and the people don't necessarily want to go talk about it in the traditional counseling sense. They just want it sorted.
Resolved.
Yeah. And then you went on to learn about NLP. You learned through your job, and then developed that out into your basically second career, your post service career. So, did you know about any eye movement stuff? I know that in NLP you do sort of visual accessing cues, but did you know that eye movement stuff could be used for change? And how did you find out about IEMT, and how did you find out about me, and what made you decide you wanted to come and do the training?
Yeah, great. So as I said, I was fascinated with the eye accessing cues that are taught in NLP for the purposes of interviews and interrogations. It actually helped me quite a bit in that area. While some people, would argue its validity or whatever, I always felt like I could calibrate easily and see if somebody was one side or the other, or, that sort of thing. So I knew about EMDR. I'd heard somewhere along the line about EMDR. I have had several clients who've done EMDR, and they basically said they had to do 10 sessions, and the first 5 they felt worse than they did when they went in. And so I was never, interested in any of that. Honestly, I wasn't looking for IEMT. I didn't even know IEMT existed. I just happened to stumble upon something on Facebook that I believe someone else had shared of you doing a demonstration, just the simple pattern that I know it as now. And I was fascinated by it. So I started looking you up and looking up, IMT, and I reached out to you, and we had a call, and I was so glad to get connected and learn that you had an upcoming training. So it just worked out great.
Brilliant. Yeah, that demonstration I did with Jody, I think it would be domestic abuse one, wasn't it? That was at my old flat here in London, and I literally went onto Facebook and said, "Does anybody want to just some free therapy? Just if you've got some negative memories or emotions." And I had a few people contact me, and he just came round, and that was almost like the whole length of the session. I think about 7 minutes. It was only like a 10-minute thing. She was at my house for like 15 minutes or something, and that one video has got me more clients and training than anything else I think I've ever done.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really simple. Just filmed it on my phone. So you
Yeah.
saw that. We had a chat. I also gave you a demo, didn't I, of the actual process?
Yep.
Um,
I'm here at my table.
yeah, right. And what was it like to have it done yourself? What was the experience of that like?
Yeah. So, and I've actually recalled it to people that I've worked with now, that because sometimes you can I think it's good to relate to someone when they tell you what their experience is after you do the simple pattern.
Yeah.
You go, yeah, when I did it, I was kind of like you, kind of like amazed that something could change so quickly. And still today, I mean, as I think about that experience, that movie turning into a picture, and for me, it turned into like a Polaroid picture. And I think after the third set of eye movements, to me, it was almost like someone had taken a lighter to the back of a Polaroid picture, and it just sort of burned out the center of it. And I knew what the picture was of, but it just had no meaning to me anymore. Yeah. And the best way that I now describe it is, it's kind of like the stop sign out in front of my house. I know it exists, it's in the world, but it doesn't belong to me anymore.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you decided to come do the training. Now, obviously, we've got quite a big time difference. Because you're in America and I'm here in the UK, in London. So, what did you think of the training in terms of the material sent up beforehand, the actual quality of the training, the tools, the techniques, the delivery, and the aftercare support and the sort of community around what I'm trying to build here? So,
yeah, I recall feeling a little bit overwhelmed in the beginning, because I'm kind of a stickler for details, and I wanted to know everything. You said read over the manual a few times before we started. But I kind of just, because you're such a professional, when we talked on Zoom before, I thought, okay, I'm just going to do what he said to do. I'll read it over several times. I'm not going to remember it or recall it, all, but it'll give me a little basis for when we begin the actual training.
Yeah.
The training was conducted superbly. I've been an instructor for 23 years, and I thought you conducted the course extremely well. Good time management. All of the exercises that we did had a purpose and helped us learn. It also helped us develop further questions, which we came back together and you talked through. And again, you had time hacks that really worked. You can tell this wasn't the first time you've conducted the course online. I mean, really, I had a small group. I think there was 9 or 10 of us, something. Everybody in the class really got along well. I had an opportunity to work with every single person. There were people represented from, I don't know, 4 continents or something.
Yeah, we had 3 people in America, somebody in India, somebody in Slovakia, and then some people in the UK. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, it was quite a diverse group, but we all really enjoyed working with each other. learn from each other and have since connected. You created a WhatsApp for us, so we are able to communicate with each other and with you. Of course, you had some difficulty with not Zoom, but whoever holds your video.
Vimeo. Oh,
Vimeo, yeah. So that took a few days.
Yeah.
But no, I've absolutely, I really appreciate that this program is not one where you just show up and pay some money and breathe and you automatically get a certification, that you actually have to demonstrate a level of mastery in order to become a full practitioner. I'm really looking forward to using this both as a standalone and in conjunction with my hypnosis.
Because with the training, I take basically a 4-step approach. So everything's broken down into modules. And before the training, I send out the manual and stuff. And the reason why I do that is that when I'm teaching, I want people to watch me and watch the slides and take it in. I don't want them reading the manual. And so if it's the first time you've seen something, it is overwhelming and you're reading it rather than listening and learning. So if I give you that a week in advance, you can just prepare. You can read it, so it's less overwhelming. Plus, I show people how to set things up technically, because obviously I've got 10 sets of technical issues to deal with around the world, with people. Because when you've got an office, they just turn up. There's not, or they can be late, but they can't have glitches and stuff.
Right.
And I just find then the more we prepare, and I do this with client sessions as well, the more people can prepare, the more you can get done, the more time effective it is. And then when I train, I do it very modular. And so it's a 4-step process. The first thing I do is I introduce and explain what this thing is. I then give a demonstration so you can see how it works. And I think I work with pretty much everybody in the group. The third thing is then you go and do it yourself. So you go and experience it in private breakout rooms. And the fourth thing, we do a review so you can share your result and then ask any questions you might have around it. And I like to do that with everything. With every single part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we sure did. Yeah.
So after the course, you're asked to go work with 2 people to go sort of work with this. Now, I know that you were doing the simple pattern with different people and stuff as well, just for fun. Which is, it's just a good little thing. It's like, so we've just been through your case studies now. You've got fantastic results from both of them. How did you find applying? Because I try to make people as ready to take these tools out to work with people as possible. As you know, I'm creating these templates, which will be ready hopefully over the weekend. But I also, I give you a whole aftercare package with structures, template, example case studies, because I don't just want you to attend and then not use it. I want you to attend and do like you do, and basically provide your case studies within a month and become a practitioner and use it. So what was it like going from the training room, the training Zoom, literally, to applying it with people? And how did you find the results? And basically, how's it been?
Yeah, I thought that you prepared us well for doing the case studies. You talked about it at the end of the program so that we understood what we needed to do. And then when I received the template and the example, that was very helpful in understanding, how I needed to structure it so that it would make sense when you and I reviewed it. It also helped me to prepare, in advance of each session, even though I had, kind of a not your final version, but an early version of the worksheets, I guess is what we're calling. Yeah, I mean, it to me, just doing it, recording it, and then taking those notes that I made during the session and then translating them into, a paragraph format. It was easy because you gave me an example of how to do it, and you gave me a template of how to create it. So that was super easy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And what were the results like? So actually in your case studies and doing with people,
Yeah.
what was it?
So as far as actually working with clients, obviously, every client is different, and there's no client is the same. There's no cookie cutter here. So there were some things that I had question marks about in my head, but I just kind of did the best that I could with it. Things like out of 10, something going down and then going back up. And of course we discussed that. And I came to a realization, as I shared with you earlier, as we were reviewing, that once I understood that it didn't have to be such a rigid process. Yes, there are sort of guidelines and the things that we need to do. But once I could kind of relax and not go, okay, I'm missing something, then I found the process to be much easier to follow, and less worried that I was gonna get it wrong or something.
And this is, I always say, do the drills, do the drills, do the drills, and then just play with intuition when you're actually
Right. Yes.
sort of
And I
doing it.
see that the more I do it, I actually can see the deviation smoothing out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's I'm not counting to, I'm not necessarily counting the 6 or
Yeah,
counting the 40 seconds or whatever. It's kind of become more intuitive the more
yeah,
I do. Yeah.
absolutely. And we want it to become sort of like an instinctual process that you're doing. And
Yeah.
this is why I put such a big emphasis on the on the experience and the practicality of the weekend, so you can do it again and again and again and again. And this is why I encourage people to practice. And the more you practice, like any kind of skill, it's not just a soft skill. So you're actually doing, motor movements and stuff as well. And the more you do it, the more you can see the changes. So when you were applying these eye movements and working with people, you've had some sort of fantastic results. What was it like helping people get these results in literally minutes? What was that?
Well, I always enjoy watching somebody, these sort of little epiphanies that you just kind of sense are going off, and then their responses, whether it be the look on the face or the comments that they make. One client, made an unsolicited comment about how basically she was amazed at how she felt about something when she came in, and then about how she felt about it then. And I've since followed up with her, and she's still just like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. It's, another comment was that it just kind of put things in perspective. And that with this other client, he said, I understand that that's the past, and I don't need to carry that around with me anymore. So it's just it's enjoyable. It's rewarding to see, the changes that you're making with clients. So.
And because a lot of clients, a lot of therapists who come and do this, because if you're doing a type of therapy, you've been doing it for a number of years, like anything, it can get a little bit laborious, a little bit boring, a little bit. People find this gets them excited about doing therapy again.
Yeah.
Because they've got this new set of, because it's not just like EMDR is essentially one thing that you do. It's over 8 phases, but it's just one movement. This is more tools, and there's more tools than just the eye movement as well that we do in the practitioner.
Right.
But they get excited because they get the results so fast. And the results, I want to make clear for people listening, they're not positive in terms of, you're not putting big happy feelings on a problem. You're going into the problem to help essentially dissolve the problem, so there isn't a problem. They just feel disassociated, and like something, we remove the significance from something. So you just have better mental clarity and emotional stability in the present day,
Yeah. Yeah. One of the sort of metaphors that I came up in one of the sessions that I was working with somebody is, it's kind of like a file, in your file and drawer. Somehow it ended up being the first thing you see when you open the drawer, but that's not where it belongs. So by doing this process, we're picking up the file. We know what's in the file, but we don't have to open it up. We don't have to read all the words. We don't have to watch every video. We pick up the file. We know what the file is, and then we put it properly where it belongs, which is further back in the filing cabinet. And I most clients said, yeah, that I like that metaphor, because it's a part of my past. It's a part of what happened in my life, but it's not something that has to be banging me in the face every time I open the drawer, So
yeah, because what happens is that when we think about doing something, or when we're in a situation, our brain does, a transderivational search. What do I know about this thing over time?
right,
And we record negative memories more strongly because it keeps us safe. So they're recorded in what we call an episodic memory, so it means something. And so when we think about doing something with public speak, whatever it might be, all these thoughts arrive, and all the negative ones are there at the top, like you say,
right,
in your file. By doing this processing work on these memories and emotions and imprints, you can see it from who you are now, and it removes the significance from it. So it
right,
doesn't mean anything. So it just means that when you go into that situation now, you can do the thing without all the anxiety and all the emotional stress. Yeah, there might be a bit of the trepidation sort of doing it, but you can do it. And now you're actually laying down new reference memory. So when you do it again, you've got these positive memories of doing it. So every time you do the thing, you actually get better and better and more confident. It's not teaching them the skill. So let's say it's like public speaking. You're not teaching them to public speak, but you're removing the anxiety, the apprehension, and the overwhelm from it, so you can learn how to be a public speaker.
right. Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So let me ask you, final part: how are you now going to take these skills and integrate them? Because obviously, you have a hypnotherapy business. So how do you see yourself integrating IEMT into what you're now going to do in the future?
Well, my initial thoughts are that I will use IMT in an earlier session, um, earlier sessions, I should say, perhaps overlapping. I'm not entirely sure, but to as we I'll use your language, to sort of do the heavy lifting.
Yep.
On the way I think of it is, my clients usually come to me, they're in a pit of life.
Yeah.
They're stuck in a habit, they're stuck in a negative way of thinking, or a way of being, anxiety or PTSD issue, something. And so I'm going to kind of use EMT as the leverage to get them out of the pit, and then we can begin to focus. We can use hypnosis to begin to focus on the positive, more empowering future that they can create for themselves. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I find that with using IEMT, because a lot of people who do coaching will use IEMT at the beginning of the coaching to put them into a position where they can be much more coachable.
yes, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I also recognize that, I could use parts and pieces of IMT, again, like you talked about, a toolbox. I can use a tool rather than the whole tool kit. It just depends on the client and what they need. Ultimately, it's about providing the client with the best tool available to help them. So,
and it's like IMT can be done pure IMT over a 2-session protocol, or as and when you need it.
Yeah.
And basically, I was speaking to Andrew Austin about this. He says using IMT with whatever you do makes whatever you do work much better.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Certainly. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a full practitioner now.
Yeah, and you'll be the only person in Georgia, I should imagine, so you can go out and advertise and so because it is a relatively new way of working with people, and and the results speak for themselves. And that's why I always say, let the results speak for themselves, and hopefully that'll get you a lot of attention and drive a lot more clients your way. Do you have a website, a public website that people can check out at all?
Yes, both hypnosisofsavannah.com and also thomassafrin.com.
I'll put some links to that. One final thing, Jerry Springer, final thought. Now, you found me by accident, and you started engaging with my material. You probably watched some of these interviews, I don't know, but you started watching my material. And now you've gone through the process and you're literally out the other side. What do you say to those people, especially sort of hypnotherapists who may know something about this, they may not know something about this, but what do you have to say to those people now that you're through the other side and you're now going to become a practitioner? To those people who are sort of querying this or maybe on the fence about learning IEMT, what do you have to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely would say do it. There's really no reason not to do it. The cost of the training itself is very reasonable. I did it in a weekend on Zoom. Because I'm in the States, I had to get up at the crack of dawn in order to be online. But aside from that, the training was phenomenal, as I've complimented you several times. Um, the the result now, as I sit here, is I believe that it will help me to more confidently help my clients using IMT, and also really, because when you start thinking about how you understand memory and those sort of things, I actually think it makes me a better hypnotist. So in that regard, I mean, I can't imagine that there's a reason why one would not choose to do the training other than some schedule conflict, but do it the next available class that you can, because it's a worthwhile venture. And like I said, I planned for, because we had to do 2 case studies. So I planned for people dropping out or altering schedules or whatever. So I asked 5 people, knowing that I would get at least 2, so that I could complete them in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And here we are about 30 days later, and I've completed my case study. So, 1 weekend of training and do a couple of sessions, take an hour or so to write up the case study, and here we are. So yeah, go do it. Just stop thinking about it and sign up for the class.
Thank you very much for your time today. Congratulations on becoming a practitioner.
Thank you.
And I'm always around. You're obviously in the Facebook groups and we're on the WhatsApp. And I know you couldn't join last night, but I do like the monthly coaching calls where we focus on things, take things a bit further. But great to see this out there now in Savannah, and you're helping all these people. And thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.